Warning! Complete and utter spoilers coming! Warning! Complete and utter spoilers coming! Hey, Captain Everyman back. I wanted to talk about something that stirred me up a little bit, and that was Strange New Worlds Gorn and how they don't fit in with the rest of Star Trek. And it got me thinking, why does this bother me? Because Arena was such a good episode. And the original Star Trek has these sort of foundational episodes where we learn about different aspects of the characters and such. And Arena is one of those sort of foundation stone episodes. So we look at Arena and how the writers set us up to learn about the characters and about really Star Trek's ethics, if I can say that. And this is a big one. Now, what a lot of people are saying, well, these Gorn are better and they're scarier and all that. Well, that isn't true at all, because the original Gorn were frightening not because they were like little gremlins that tore people to shreds, but they were scary because they were so intelligent and crafty. And this was something that was even more imposing to us, because we think about the Federation and we think of Starfleet as having all this tech and being so savvy and so intelligent. Well, here they met somebody who had all that and more. So that's why Arena is such a great episode and how the writers set it up. And what I want to do today is a little walkthrough where I talk about how the writers constructed this story and what they did to make it so interesting and to really inform the audience about not only what Star Trek was about, but what these characters were about, especially looking at the interplay between them and how they fleshed them out and we got to know them personally. See, the whole beauty of Arena is that it's one of the classics of the original Star Trek. And if you haven't looked at this series, if you just missed it as being corny or campy or whatever, this is a good entry point for you. Because the original Star Trek was all about the stories. And this story starts off with the Enterprise getting this message from this post, this colony, inviting them basically to come and have dinner. But when they get there, they find out the colony is not there. It's been destroyed. It's been leveled. It's literally been wiped off the face of this planet. And here they are down there, and they come under attack. So one of the things we learn from the story, and the writers are setting this up, is the people who've invaded this colony or taken over this colony, how smart they are. And this is setting us up for the rest of the story. So what they find out is these messages they got, they've been completely faked, and they had no idea they were. They didn't even suspect it. They're all happy going down there to enjoy this dinner. When they get down there, it's gone. They start to fight, and they realize that these people they're fighting are really smart. And one of the messages asked for them, be sure you send your tactical people down when you meet us. So the people they're fighting have actually asked for the most experts they know would be able to fight against them. They want them down there so they can get them down there and kill everybody who they think is a threat. Mr. Spock is using the tricorder to try to locate where they are, and they've sort of used that to gain somewhat of an advantage. So what do? They lock onto the tricorder, they send his message back, his signals back through there, amplified, and they destroy it. So as the viewers, we realize, man, these are really something here. These people they're fighting are really intelligent and crafty, and they're really dangerous. So what happens is they find some weapons that are stored there. They use it against the attackers, and they fend them off. They get back to the ship. And then Kirk and Spock have this conversation. Kirk is like trying to figure out what to do next. And what the conclusion he arrives at is this must be part of an invasion. And so we got to chase after these people and destroy them before they get back, or they're going to report, hey, these people are weak, let's invade, let's come take over. So once they've decided that, they chase after the ship. And once they catch up to it, they're prepared to destroy it. One of the good things about this episode is how involved George Takei is as Sulu. This is one of the episodes he's really ingrained in. He's really in charge of the ship while they're down on the planet, and he's making maneuvers, he's communicating with them, he's defending the Enterprise, keep from getting destroyed. So that's a big point here too. So what happens when they pursue this ship? Kirk is taking all kinds of chances. He's pushing the ship to the limit. But then out of the blue, there's an intervention. The Metrons come in. We don't know who they are at the time, but we find out very quickly after that. The ship they're chasing is brought to a halt, and they probably assume that, hey, this ship was stressed too, and maybe the engines are just malfunctioning, and now we got them. Kirk's going to chase after them now. He's got them. They're motionless, and he's going to destroy them. But before he can do that, the same thing happens to the Enterprise. They get caught by some unseen forces, and they're just shut down. And that's when this part of the story comes up around, and everybody knows of the battle in the arena. So these people that have intervened, the Metrons, they say, hey, we're not going to allow violence in our area. You know, you're in our house now, and this violent confrontation, we're putting a stop to it. So we're going to put 2 representatives on this planet, one from each side. You're going to battle it out, and whoever's the victor is going to be free to leave, but whoever loses, they're going to be destroyed and killed, and so are the rest of them. So Kirk gets down there with this battle. And this is where the iconic battle takes place between him and the Gorn captain. And they have to figure out, how to fight each other. The Gorn is much stronger than him, so Kirk can't just fight him. He tries. He uses all that Kirk martial arts moves on him. But there's nothing he can do with him because he's too big and strong, and he's really, really durable. He can take a blow. So nothing he does any good. So Kirk figures out an ingenious way to make a weapon, and he stops this Gorn. And this is the climax of the story we've been set up for from the very beginning by the writers and all the things that have happened. Because Kirk comes to realize at the end that he's looking at this Gorn, he's looking at himself. Okay, Kirk made these big assumptions, and it's really the climax of the story is 3 false assumptions, and you can think of it as the moral of the story. The first one comes from Kirk. Kirk realizes that just like he pursued them to destroy them because he assumed it was an invasion, he realized that the Gorn captain thought the same thing about the outpost. They assumed this was an invasion. There was a group of people trying to take over their territory and destroy them.
No, I won't kill you. Maybe you thought you were protecting yourself when you attacked the outpost.
So both the Gorn captain and Captain Kirk have made exactly the same conclusions, and fortunately Kirk was stopped from killing all the Gorn. The Gorn, though, have already killed all these people, and that can't be changed. So those are like the 2 epiphanies there. There's a third epiphany, the epiphany of the Metrons. The Metrons realized they thought of them as savages, but Kirk really isn't. It was an assumption they made based on what they saw. They didn't know anything about the motivations of what was going on. So when Kirk wins, he tells him he's not going to kill him. That's when the Metrons realize that there's more to this conflict than they originally thought. And so this is the big thing about original Star Trek episodes, is they're based on the story. And they're not based on necessarily phasers going around and people killing everybody in action and all kinds of gratuitous other stuff. So this is why Star Trek is so good. And Arena really illustrates why the original Star Trek was so good, because it has a story to tell us. So Arena taught us a lot. We got to meet these characters, and we got to meet a new like imposing like foe, which unfortunately, there were only 3 seasons of the original Star Trek, so they never got to go back to it. But what I like to point out is that one of these seasons had almost 30 episodes each. So even though it's only 3 seasons, there's a lot of Star Trek in those 3 seasons compared to what we have now. And Arena was a foundation stone. We learned a lot. We got good storytelling. We got to learn about the characters like Sulu and Spock, and we got to see Kirk under pressure and how he handled it. We got to learn about him as a protagonist. So all in all, Arena was a lot of fun, and this is what really has me stirred up a little, is that these Gorn on Strange New Worlds, they just don't match up. They're not the same, and they don't fit in with the continuity. Although I'm enjoying Strange New Worlds, I think it's kind of tragic that these writers haven't caught sort of the spirit and sort of the ingenuity that the original writers had in their, instead of coming up with their own original ideas, maybe some new aliens or taking some aliens that have been used before and keeping them within the continuity and structure of what's already been told. They're kind of doing like a cheap ripoff and being influenced by more contemporary monster movies and such, and it just isn't as good.